Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar. Before we begin, a couple of ground rules. So one is do not hesitate to ask me any questions anytime during the webinar. We have the questions window. If you have the chat window, feel free to type in your questions, and that will also benefit the other participants, so I can take those questions. If I don't have an immediate answer, I will certainly get back to you. That's one. And second is we'll also have the PDU code that will be distributed at the end of the webinar. So stay on till end of the webinar if you're looking to get one PDU in order to use it for renewing your respective certifications. So those were the couple of rules to remember. So let's get started. So before we begin, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Kedar Sathe. I'm one of the consulting managers in Ceridian. I work out of their Mauritius office. I've been an HCM professional for the last 18 years or so. HCM is human capital management, and I'm predominantly into implementing HCM systems or ERPs, as we generally call it in the business world, uh, for majorly for North American clients. So I've been associated with mainly with the North American customers. There's a bit of a period when I work with European guys, UK in particular, but majority of my experience is around working with North American, both US and Canadian customers. I do have got teams working out of Mauritius, out of India, out of Philippines, out of US, out of Canadian locations, predominantly for implementation activities. I also do quite a few things outside of my work, for which I interact with people again. Not necessarily just in Mauritius. I've also been associated with quite a few teaching opportunities on the island. I was a part of the Open University, initiating members that started the MBA course in project management. That was 2020 and 2021. I also run the PMP certification workshops on the island on behalf of ProThoughts and Finanotech. And yeah, I'm basically hooked on to project management for quite some time now. What I've observed is, in my personal, opinion, I have found project management useful to me not just within my working environment. It is also extremely beneficial for me outside of my work activities as well, the day-to-day things that I do. So I do see a lot of value in not just learning, but also implementing as many things as possible. And that's how you get into that cycle of learning and implementing, and again learning and implementing. So that constant feedback is something that has helped me over the years. Okay, so that's about me. Let's look at the agenda for today. So what we're going to do is, we're not going to be looking at some of the generic stuff around the certification or the topics that we have, but today we are going to specifically focus on the agile piece. As you might be aware, or even if you're not, but uh, post 2020, 2021, I'm sorry, Agile was hugely introduced in the PMP certification. So later, when we look at some of the slides, there are a lot of things to learn in Agile, not only for PMP certification, but very recently, PMI has also introduced separate certifications for disciplined Agile. So we'll also take a quick look at those certifications, and we're also running workshops for those in Mauritius. But the scope for today's session is predominantly around the PMP certification and what things you can look forward when you attend the workshop, or if anyone is interested in looking for details around the PMP certification, then that is something that you can find out. We are not going to go into a lot of details because the topic itself is huge, but it is going to be good enough for you guys to get a glimpse of how exactly things work. What is the shift that one has to go through if someone is wanting to embark on the agile journey. A lot of us, have a habit of working in the waterfall model, so our way of thinking is tuned in a certain way. So we're going to look at the difference between things of doing agile versus being agile. We'll also look at the Agile Manifesto in brief. It's nothing but a set of about 12 principles which the PMI has put together. It's not actually PMI, but the Agile community has put together, and PMI has kind of taken it as a reference. And when we look at the workshop content, you'll also find a note of these principles or the Agile Manifesto as such as one of the core topics. Then we'll also look at how and what activities or what are the topics that you will encounter during the PMP certification journey itself, like what things to expect from an agile perspective. And then last but not least, we will take a look at what is the overall agile scenario in Mauritius. So uh, we'll look at certain examples, what industries are adopting or have started to use agile in their day-to-day activities. Again, when we look at agile, it's more around mindset rather than doing things in a certain way. So once you adopt that mindset, I think that's where you will be able to do a lot of things in the agile world. So that's about the agenda. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to um, ask those questions anytime during the webinar. Use your chat toolboxes or the chat windows, question and answer windows to type in your questions, and I'll be more than happy to take those questions. So let's move on. So this kind of briefly explains what an agile mindset is all about. Uh, by and large, you will have two things. One is doing things agile way, and the second is obviously being in the agile mode. So when you think of doing agile or things in or in implementation or execution mode, it's nothing but a set of practices or frameworks. You've got certain tools. There are certain skills that you can develop. As you gain experience on those skills, you'll also develop your competencies accordingly. So doing things in agile are basically following those practices or frameworks or using certain tools to optimize the way in which we are going to bring results. It's also being more effective and efficient using those skills and tools. Whereas the other side of the picture is about being agile. So that's where it's more mindset related rather than learning tools. So once the rationale behind why you should be adopting agile or what is the value that it is going to deliver is understood, then that shift is fairly easy, or you should also be able to um, pass on that bigger goal or the bigger advantage that you could gain, bigger value that you could achieve or you get of implementing things in agile way, or the mindset as I said. Now again, as I mentioned in the beginning, most of the times what happens is, because we've been working in a certain way, and it could be, for some of the guys who could be as early as 3 years of work experience or 5 years of work experience, right up to someone like me who's been in the industry for 18, 20 years. uh, what starts to happen is, back of our mind, we start to believe that because we've been doing things in a certain way, this is how it is done, which may or may not be true in all the cases. So a major portion of the transformation, if you are working predominantly in a waterfall, in a predictive environment, making that shift from a plan driven to a change driven. Agile is nothing but working in a change driven environment. So if you want to make that shift, I think you should be able to, one, recognize the value points, recognize the USPs, as I often say, and what advantages, what benefits it is going to bring to the project, or even the business as such. And once you're able to recognize that, realize that the scale is wider, because agile is more at a mindset level. I think the more you're able to extract out of it by implementing certain things within your group, within your agile team, the more value it's going to realize for you. And then eventually you will be able to change your mindset, and at the end of the day you should be able to realize and recognize a lot of value in that. And while you kind of shift that mindset, maybe from a traditional or a plan driven or predictive towards an agile mindset, I think the practices, the frameworks, the tools, the skills, all of them will be extremely handy when you kind of make that shift towards the agile world. Uh, Now, often what happens is, even if you look at the structure in which, if we talk about the PMP certification, you have got your 10 knowledge areas and 5 process group. We again tend to believe that if we are working in agile, how are we going to implement the knowledge areas that are primarily applied for waterfall or predictive or plan driven into an agile world. I think that's where it starts to become tricky, especially in the initial few uh, days of the journey when you're making that shift. Because although it might seem that the knowledge areas, so you've got integration, you've got stakeholder, you've got risk, quality, and so on and so forth, although it might seem that it is only applicable to the predictive or waterfall, it is equally applicable for agile. The context is different. When I say context, the way in which it is applied, the way in which it is monitored, the way in which it is planned, that could be slightly different. Because unlike a plan driven team, or a waterfall team, or any team which is going to do things in a certain sequence, normally we have bigger teams, we have huge teams that implement these projects. But when it comes to agile, for example, the team size is not going to be that big. So you might have 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15, not more than 15 in most organizations, because there's a certain value addition we get as a business from those smallish kind of agile teams. One thing that we generally associate with agile team is two words. One is self-organizing, and second is highly skilled and highly competent team. So because you have got a group of individuals, group of people who have got multiple skills with different levels of competencies, it is easy to do that interchangeability as and when required, as per the needs of the project. So because it's no longer a specific skill related item for a particular team member, you could have one person doing multiple things, wearing multiple hats, which is why the size of the team becomes smaller. And the way in which the work is carried out, and later in the webinar we'll be looking at certain terms, the work is generally done through what we call as small cycles of delivery, or small cycles in which the work is achieved, which we generally call as sprints. And the duration of sprint is anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks to 2.5 weeks is generally an ideal duration for a sprint. But again, the way in which we continue with our work activities or tasks within an agile team is hugely different to how it goes in a waterfall world. Which is where, as I said, it could be slightly tricky in order to implement some of the concepts that we derive from a waterfall into agile, or vice versa. But again, at a high level, the agile is more at a mindset level rather than implementing things in a certain way, or not implementing if you're working in a waterfall driven. So doing agile, as I said, is all about the skills, the tools, how you deal with people, what are the practices, frameworks. Your own organization might have a toolkit that you might want to go ahead and use. Eventually it's going to be helpful in increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of your groups. But being agile is more mindset related. It's all in your head, and the way in which you're going to drive the group. So if you have the scrum master analogy in an agile team, or a product manager role that we have in an agile team, then how between the two of them they are kind of able to drive the entire set of activities. It's a classic example of a scenario where you could implement all your leadership skills, your project management skills. At the end of the day, it's nothing but combination of interpersonal skills as and when required, because at the end of the day you're still going to deal with people in order to get your work done. But that's essentially the agile mindset. Uh, as an example, what I've done is I've picked up some of the frameworks or the tools or the ways in which you can implement agile in your organization. On the screen, obviously, you see a lot of those things. Scrum, Kanban, Lean. Let's pick up the first two. So Scrum is generally a way in which you'll have a product manager, you'll have a Scrum master. There's going to be a team. You do what we generally call as daily stand-ups or scrum meetings or scrums. And the idea is to basically collaborate on a daily basis to ensure that whatever plan was planned yesterday and whatever is planned today is on track. So the scope really is, have we done what we were supposed to do yesterday, and then are we on track to do what we're supposed to do today? So that's how the collaboration works. And because you're not dealing with a lot of items within a particular sprint. Sprints are generally broken up depending on the capacity that we have for our team members, or the duration that we have, or what kind of functionality we are going to deliver to our customers or stakeholders through the deliverables. Is what is going to define the duration of a sprint. But Scrum is one way. Kanban is more visual. So the idea behind implementing a Kanban is, it's again a way in which you promote collaboration, but it is more visual. So you will have a progress display in a way at a high traffic area, where everyone is able to see what's happening, what are the work items that we have in all to be completed, what are the work items that are in progress, and what are the work items that for example have been completed. So each one of the team members working in that agile team exactly knows who's working on what is my deadline, what is the kind of work I'm supposed to do, if there's any interdependability. And eventually we need to get all the work items, the product backlog items as we call it, completed by a certain date for a sprint. So similarly, then you've got lean, you've got crystal, you've got extreme programming, which is again a continuation of what we generally do on an agile team. But these are some of the different frameworks or the practices that we have in agile. So this portion will deal with the doing agile things in an organization. So again, the starting point would be uh, what kind of framework you would want to select based on the needs of your group, of your project, of the business in general. That will be most beneficial. You could also have a scenario where it could be a combination of multiple frameworks. So as I said, Scrum is more person to person, more collaboration involved, because the team members will be highly in touch with each other for work activities, for the tasks that were supposed to be done yesterday and today. At the same time, Kanban is more visually appealing because we, as humans, pictures are more appealing to us, or whatever we see in the form of a visual is more appealing. We are able to derive more information. So you could also have a scenario where you carry out your work activities using a scrum, using a stand-up meeting, but maybe the scrum master or the product owner or one of the team member is also going to use the Kanban as a visual medium to display certain things. So that's also a possibility. Uh, but the idea is, what kind of value each of these frameworks will bring in. Now, just to elaborate on the value proposition, especially since the the change in the exam format with the knowledge areas process group being replaced by people, process, business, and the domains as such, the entire shift happened onto the value proposition. Or every time we conduct a workshop, or every time we are going to discuss each of these items in the workshop, the main focus is, okay, what value this is going to bring to your project, what value this is going to bring to your team. So whenever the groups or the project teams in the organization are going to work on something, it's no longer a deadline based, or no longer a delivery based. Of course, you have your project success criteria, which is your scope, time, cost, quality, and some of the other knowledge areas. But at the end of the day, if you're working on a project, if you look at the definition of the project as such, it's going to be a unique service or a result or a product that we are going to generate um, by doing a certain series of activities in a time bound fashion. So there has to be certain value which the implementing organization, or the project which is, or the project team that is working on that set of tasks, has to deliver to the customer, to the implemented organization. If that value is frequently delivered, if it is delivered in such a way that there are multiple feedback checkpoints for the customer to provide feedback, which the agile team can then incorporate. So it's more a way of working, and that's how the process is going to evolve. So um, as a group, as a business, if you're in the role of a product owner or a scrum master, this is what you need to eventually figure out, like what is the best way in which we can deliver that, how frequently we need to deliver it, what is the smallest amount of value or the features that we need to deliver to the customer for the customer to consider it as a functional um, piece of the entire project. So things like these is what is going to determine the value. Or if you look at an analogy, simple analogy, all of us purchase a car, purchase a bike. At the end of the day, it has to deliver certain value to us, because we are paying that kind of money to purchase those things. So if there's no value which is being delivered by these products to us as individuals, then you're probably not making the best use of that money that we have put in. So on similar lines, if we are getting the money, getting the revenue from our customers, then is the customer really getting the value out of what he's paying? Or if you're attending this webinar, if I'm not able to deliver certain value, then I don't think I've made the best use of the 1 hour that you have invested. So that is what I mean by the value proposition, or how you can ensure that there's a minimum frequency at which this value is delivered, and what exactly value is going to mean to the customer, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who will pay for the activities that you're going to work on. So that is the walk the line that you will have to do if you're in a product owner, or a scrum master role. Or if you go a notch higher, if you're part of a PMO, for example, then you will have to define certain things. If you're in the role of an agile coach, for example, then how can you bring a change, not just in one agile team, but multiple agile teams, several agile teams that work within your business. So as your role is defined within the organization, the shift in the approach, the change in the approach, the change in the mindset is what is really required. And the core of that mindset is the value propositions, the value that you will be delivering, or you will be providing to the customer. So again, when I talk about value, it's not a big thing, or something which is more abstract. Even in our day-to-day lives, as I said, we keep on talking about value. What are the advantages, what are the benefits, what are the certain things that we are looking forward from whatever we are doing. So a similar analogy can be applied to Agile. But frequent delivery, extremely important. Collaboration with the customer in order to get multiple source of feedbacks, again extremely important. And then the combination of those two is going to define how quickly you can make that shift, or how consistent you are in the delivery approach. So that was about the different frameworks. And then, as I said, being agile is more a mindset, and that's where it's not just going to be you do this and you will be able to deliver a value. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But it's going to be a control use of all the things that you can kind of drive within the agile team, or a group, or whichever project team you're a part of within the business. But uh, as I said, because it's a mindset shift, and often it's very difficult to change a mindset, because we've been kind of doing things in a certain way over and over for a longish period of time. So it often becomes difficult to consistently do it. You could do it at a one-off frequency, but consistently delivering as per the expected value proposition. Again, I'm going to go back to value, or what are the deliverables that we need to send to the customer in order for them to consider that part of the project, or that part of the product as functional, so that they can use it, they can internally circulate it within their user community, and then provide some sort of a feedback. So again, if you look at some of the pointers here, it says autonomy over control, or progress over perfection, or adapting to a change. The moment we talk about agile teams, it is generally a change driven way in which we are going to implement our project tasks. Plan driven, or waterfall is generally a plan driven, because you have a well defined scope at the start of the project, or maybe it's one of the project that you have done as a business in the past. So you have got statistics, you have got historical data, you have got analogous data, which you can then use for your future projects. So it's going to be a highly plan driven activity. So you know that in order to achieve a certain amount of scope, you need to do things in a certain way, one after the other maybe, or it could be having dependencies based on the way in which you carry out your work. But in agile, it could be something which is not a well defined scope. For example, the research type of work that goes on. So uh, maybe using a brainstorming session, you could be able to identify the end goal, but you just don't know how you're going to take the journey in order to reach that goal. So while you're doing that, while you're implementing it, there could be a lot of changes within the scope itself, the way in which you're going to implement some of those things. So it's highly a change driven environment when it comes to agile, as compared to plan driven, where, as I said, there's a well defined scope. um, but again, as I said, every team member in an agile team is going to be highly skilled. It's going to be or multi-skilled, highly competent, as we generally call it. So there's a lot of flexibility in which we can get the things done. If you could have a scenario where a product manager is playing the role of a scrum master, or vice versa, for a certain sprint, or there could be a problem of resources or a resource shortage, as we generally have in real world. So you could have one person wearing multiple hats, or the interchangeability aspect is fairly straightforward. So that's how you kind of move from a plan driven to a change driven scenario or a change driven mindset. As I said, collaboration is going to be the key. Collaboration not just with your team members, but an equal and same type of collaboration with your stakeholders, with your customers, with your end users. And collaboration for what? Collaboration to frequently deliver the value, for them to recognize that value and then provide certain feedback based on if it is matching their expectation, not matching. If it is matching, good, well, you move on. If it is not matching, then obviously you have to go back and make certain tweaks and changes in order to get it back on track. And then obviously the customers or the end users will kind of approve it. So that's how the process generally goes. But yeah, as I said, being agile is more at a mindset level. The shift generally has to happen at a mindset level, and doing things in an agile is mostly using the different tools and techniques that are available to us, or which has already been published, and we can just pick it up and make use of it. And also, as I said, you can also use a combination of tools and practices wherever it best suits your need. uh, okay, so let's move on. This is what I call as the Agile Manifesto. There's 12 Agile principles, and if you kind of go through the content of this slide, a lot of things could be related to our previous slide, which was being agile, or the mindset that we talked about. So this particular portion, welcoming change requirements, it that kind of demonstrates the skill that we are a change driven team, so we're not going to freak out if there are multiple changes coming in, or um, we will kind of analyze what kind of change we are dealing with. Are we able to accommodate that kind of a change immediately, or it has it to be broken in multiple sprints, and how do we eventually deliver that change? So it could be as simple as welcoming changes, or taking that approach. If you remember, I'd also used the term self-organizing team. So that's what generally defines an agile team. So that is also one of the principles. What it means by is, if you have a scenario where for whatever reasons, person X is supposed to be doing task X, but because there is a business need, or because there is a customer need, this person is now required to do additional things. So the agile teams will be in a situation to carry out those work. So they are mostly going to be independent. We don't need a lot of supervision for getting these things done. Plus, at the same time, they can also sort things out internally within themselves. So that is what the self-organizing teams means. At the same time, if you look at another blog, it says simplicity. So while there are so many things happening, while there are so many changes being brought in, while there's a long list of requirements or product backlog items that are continuously given to the product owner, at the end of the day, we will still stick to a subset of that backlog, and we'll try to keep it as simple as possible, so that we can work on it effectively, efficiently, and then deliver that value to the customer. uh, Continuous attention to technical excellence, or the whole idea of continuous improvement in a way. So the more you try to adhere to these items, or the requirements in a way, you're also in a continuous assessment mode of what things you can possibly improve. Are there any gaps that we have identified? Are there any potential improvement areas that we could think of, and then implement it in a future sprint or a release maybe? Collaboration, as I said, that is going to be extremely important, extremely essential part of any agile team, because what generally happens is, as I said, because there are frequent deliveries, because value is being delivered at multiple frequencies, that collaboration has to be there between the agile team members and also with the different stakeholders, the customer, the end users, and all of that. So a lot of it is face to face conversation, or face to face in today's world could be obviously face to face, in person, or over Zoom meetings, for example, or virtually. But that collaboration is equally important. Um, if you look at the first block, it says customer satisfaction through early and continuous delivery of valuable software, or valuable functionality, if you want to interpret it for different types of projects. So that is the MVP or the MBI, as we generally call it, minimum viable product, minimum business increment is what generally the agile terms are being described. But again, by and large, it is going to be around how you run an agile team. So it's more related to being agile, because at the end of it, it's going to be a mindset piece rather than the tools that you might want to use for doing certain things or getting things done in a particular sprint, or multiple sprints, or a release, or a product roadmap in a bigger scheme of things. So at the same time, it's also important for you. Now, let's take an example that someone is playing the role of a product owner, or someone is playing the role of a scrum master. Making sure that we stick to these principles, not just one or two sprints, but consistently is what is going to be the key criterias for success. Now, because again, as I said, it's a highly change driven environment. You also need to keep a track of changes. So the product owner has to continuously assess, evaluate what kind of changes has been provided by the customer based on the feedback that they have given after a certain functionality was delivered to them. Or uh, if you're working on a research project, the prior example we took, there could be a completely new set of requirements the customer is willing to implement. So they will also keep on adding to the product backlog, making sure that the value is being delivered to them as and when the sprint activities will be completed, in order to complete that task or set of activities. So things like these. But at the end of the day, this is what the agile mindset is going to be all about. Even during the workshops that we conduct for PMP certification in particular, we also talk a lot of things around this mindset piece, because to me, changing a mindset is more difficult rather than picking up a tool and using it in our day-to-day activity. So when your mindset is required to be changed, it's completely the way of thinking, your thought process. And believe me, it's not that easy to change that quickly, because we're not just talking about 1 or 2 days, but it's more of a continuous shift or a continuous change of mindset which is required. So that's how the principles, or the agile manifesto is something we have to build our foundation on for any agile teams. So I'm just going to check if there are any questions. So far we have nothing. Okay. uh, so yeah, let's move on. Now, how things are going to look like, specifically around the PMP certification when it comes to agile. As I said, a lot of emphasis has been laid around the questions for agile. When I completed my certification back in 2015, uh, there are not a lot of agile questions that used to come. So maybe 20, 25%, 30%. But since 2020, 2021 cycle, that percentage has gone significantly, and it's now approximately 50% of the exam questions. So of the possible 180 questions that you can expect for the certification exam, at least 90 could be around agile. And again, one of the ways we are going to tackle those questions is obviously by having a certain strategy. So part of our workshop is also spent on making sure that we have the right information with us based on the data which is provided to us in the question, and how we utilize it and try and arrive at the answer. So that's going to be some of the strategies which we'll also learn during the workshop. um, yeah, so I think agile is going to be the way forward, which is why there's a lot of emphasis on agile, not just in the content of our workshops, but also the amount of questions that come. And obviously you have to pass the exam, so you will have to successfully answer those questions, and in order to get the certification. um, the other challenge, I won't call it as a challenge, but it's more of a practical approach, or a lack of practical approach. We have a lot of participants that come from different industries. So far, our perception is, if it's agile, it's always a software development, or if it's an application, then it's agile. If it's product development, then it's agile. So uh, because we haven't been exposed to a lot of things, uh, agile is not just restricted to these two or three verticals or the industries that I just mentioned. You can also implement agile in construction industry, or in an industry where it might seem that we are working on a highly plan driven project, which has got a definite scope, but there will be certain aspects of that project which will be worked out in an agile way. I'll give you a small example. I don't know if anyone is coming from a construction industry, for example. The moment we talk about construction industry, we will have a well defined scope. We have to build a bridge that will take us from point A to point B. We have to build a tunnel which will take us from point A to point B. We have to build a road which will travel a certain distance, and then uh, have, again, as I said, take us from point A to point B. If we are building a huge shopping mall, or if you are putting together a huge multi-story building, we already know what kind of scope we are dealing with. uh, the way in which you can introduce agile is, let's say that we're working on a bridge which is going to pass through a very difficult terrain, for which you need to develop a new material based on which you will be constructing that bridge. So the way in which that material is put together, or if you're working on a certain type of design because of the nature of the terrain or the difficult nature of the terrain, so getting that design together, or getting the approval for that design from the from the customer or the end user or different stakeholders, that is something where you could implement agile. A simple example would be, you're working on a design piece. What agile says is, it has to be a frequent mode of delivery with certain value which is delivered to the customer. So the way it could get translated in day to day life is, you work on that design, you're not sure of what exactly the customer expects, so you collaborate with the customer, try and get as much information as possible for them. You go back to your drawing board, work out something, show that piece of work to the customer. The customer will say, oh, okay, this is pretty good, but not exactly as compared to what I was expecting. So you take it back, you take that feedback, you go back to the drawing board, make little tweaks, keep on improving on that design aspect, or the raw material that I mentioned. So you keep on working based on the feedback that we have received, or keep on working continuously up until a point that the customer is satisfied, and then you kind of proceed. So this whole process of delivering based on the feedback, delivering based on the inputs that you get from the stakeholders, based on the different points, the feedback points that we have introduced in our schedule, for example, that's nothing but agile. So although on the onset it might look like a construction project, but for coming up with the individual pieces of those projects, obviously design is going to be a huge one in that. You could apply agile, for example. So that's what I mean by, um, although it might seem that you can't implement projects in an agile way, but there's always that mindset, that shift of approach that will help you take to your logical destination. So that's one of the things that we discussed during the workshop. Uh, as I said, if you go back to the principles that we talked about, we also discussed the ways and means in which we can implement some of those things tangibly within your own project teams or the businesses or organizations. And the idea is fairly straightforward. Is if we are able to see something coming out of it tangibly, it's fairly easy for us to believe that yes, this can be done, and let's proceed, because we can now recognize the value that it is going to deliver to us. So that's how these agile concepts are carried forward in the certification. The basic idea is, do not restrict it to just as a theory component, but also try and implement things as much as possible within your day-to-day activities. And this to me is not just applicable for the agile methodology, but it can be equally true for even your waterfall or predictive. So the idea is, you learn new things, you implement. You might not get to the result that you want the first time. So you improvise, you take that feedback, you go back to the drawing board, you kind of tweak the way in which you have done it, you kind of redo the thing, and eventually you will kind of get there. So that's the idea. We are also going to use demonstrate during the workshop, and it's not just for agile. There are a lot of other things that we also display using the same techniques during the workshop. So that's how agile is kind of embedded in the current format of the PMP certification. As I said, you could easily get anything between 45 to 50% of the questions for agile. And uh, even if I take my own example, very recently, up until very recently, as 2016 or 2017, uh, I had not exhaustively worked in an agile environment. But now, with this package that I carry, and if I'm able to implement some of those things even in my day-to-day activities, day-to-day tasks, it is of massive help. Because although it might seem that I'm working on a plan driven, or I might be working on a predictive project, waterfall project, there's so many angles within each of these tasks, within each of these deliverables, where I can definitely go and implement the agile way of working. So that's what I mean by ability to map these principles to our day-to-day activities. And if you look at the overall agile scenario in Mauritius, as I mentioned, um, we have got quite a few banks in Mauritius that have now shifted towards agile way. So when it comes to developing a banking application, a mobile application, a new product development, a new feature that needs to be introduced in an app, for example, agile is the way in which all these banks are looking at it. You could have a product which is being developed for I don't know, beverage industry, for example. So that product development can also follow the agile way. We just took an example of construction and real estate development, which is a huge thing in Mauritius right now. There's a lot of focus on environment and sustainability, obviously, because Mauritius, being an island, is hugely exposed to the rising dangers of global warming, and what are the ways and means in which we can curb the dangers, the impacts of all these disasters which are headed our way. Agriculture, for example, is another industry where there's a lot of research which is going on. Although I haven't mentioned this on the list, but biotechnology is one of the upcoming sectors in which there's a lot of focus from the government, because government sees value in introducing biotech parks, for example, within Mauritius, where a lot of people from all over will come. They will do research, and eventually it will help one or more sectors that you see on the list. So there is a lot of change happening on the island. We are aggressively moving towards agile. We already see some great results of the work that is being done We have got 2 or 3 banking applications, for example, that are heavily used on the island by a lot of people. The core of those application development activities was Agile. So yes, there's a lot of emphasis which is being made, especially on the island for Agile. Which is why there is again a lot of value add for all of us as professionals in understanding, in learning these new concepts around Agile, and then, as I said, implementing it on a day-to-day basis. So although we have PMP certification, which carries a lot of items from our Agile background, you also have got a newer or a set of newer certifications that PMI has introduced. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a small video which will help all of you to see that. So just give me 1 minute. I'm going to share the screen with my audio so that it is audible to all of you. So this is one of the videos that you will find on the pmi.org portal, and whenever you have got some time, you can also take a look at it. So here you go.
Hi, and welcome to Out of the Box. Each episode, we'll be sharing insights on current events in the PMI global community, empowering you in your work. And we'll be taking a deep dive into many of our products and services so you can stay in the know. Projects around the world are evolving and becoming more complex, requiring those delivering projects to explore different approaches to deliver value. So, in order for PMI to continue delivering value to our community, we wanted to make sure that we offered project professionals options in choosing what approach works best for them, whether it's serial, agile, or a hybrid approach. Now, more than 35,000 people and 1,200 teams are proof that Disciplined Agile provides those options.
Disciplined Agile is an agnostic toolkit that harnesses a world of agile practices to guide you to the best ways of working for your team and organization. DA allows you to start where you are and build on your current practices, optimizing your agility for your situation. Alongside this, DA has the most comprehensive and rigorous Agile certification program in the industry. With certifications that are credible and valuable to hold, you can think of this as the PMP of Agile. Just like the PMP, they require an understanding of a significant body of knowledge, real-world experience, and passing of a challenging exam. So let's look at that certification program.
If you're looking for a great way to get to know DA, we launched Basics of Disciplined Agile, a self-paced online course which shows you how to choose the right Agile solution for your situation and achieve a way of working that gets better results faster. You can earn PDUs, members get special pricing, and there's even a free introduction to the course.
When you're ready to dig deeper into DA, we have several certifications for you to attain, with more to come this year. The DA Scrum Master introduces you to multiple Agile and Lean techniques, from Scrum, Kanban, SAFe, and more, freeing you from any single Agile framework and opening your options. At the same time, you will also learn how to apply the DA toolkit and put it into action in your own unique situation. Following this, you can progress with 2 more certifications. The PMI Agile Certified Practitioner validates your existing Agile experience and will allow you to amplify your skills, experience, and versatility by applying Agile principles and practices as part of an Agile team. The DA Senior Scrum Master will accelerate your ability to take on more complex initiatives and successfully lead an Agile team or multiple teams. Taking a deep dive into the DA toolkit, you will be able to choose, scale, and tailor your way of working to achieve Agile success in any situation.
Our 2 other certifications are the Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant, or DAVSC, and DA Coach. The DAVSC certification helps organizations achieve true business agility. Through the course, you'll master DA Flex, an integration of flow, lean, and theory constraints. It uses value stream management to allow you to lead entire organizations in manifesting business agility in a way that fits the needs of the organization. The 3-day workshop allows you to become a driver of transformation, accelerating value delivery, and guiding organizations to true business agility.
The DA Coach certification will enable you to coach, motivate, and inspire teams in your organization or elsewhere, teaching them how to apply and optimize DA across the enterprise. Through the 2-day workshop, you will learn how to align teams with organizational strategies and goals to enable agile transformation whilst also optimizing your own organizational leadership skills.
These certifications are a journey into the Agile world, and everyone from beginners to experts can take them.
Also this year, we're planning to deliver micro-accreditations in Agile metrics, lean procurement, Agile funding, Agile governance, and more. So stay tuned. Great Discipline Agile things are coming your way.
Discipline Agile was recently recognized and featured in Gartner's 2021 Market Guide for Enterprise Agile Frameworks as one of the leading approaches for Agile adoptions and transformations.
Organizations that adopt disciplined Agile go to market sooner, deliver value faster, and make their customers happier. Visit pmi.org/certifications/agile-certifications to take the next step in your Agile career. Disciplined Agile, the PMP of Agile certifications. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Out of the Box. Be sure to check us out at Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and find out more on the Out of the Box webpage. See you soon.
Okay, so that was the video. So as I said, we've got a couple of workshops that are coming up. One is the PMP classroom sessions that is starting this weekend as from the 9th of September. And there is one batch which is coming up later in the month, the last week of September, for Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master. So that's the DASSM certification course that you're doing. So you've got one session that starts earlier in the September month, and then one is towards the end. If you need any information, he's going to be our local contact on the island. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him. Drop an email, send a text message, WhatsApp message. He will definitely get back to you. So those are the couple of email IDs. In case you want to reach out to someone at ProThoughts or Finanotech, then these are the email IDs that you can look at. So info@prothoughts.co.in or info@finanotech.com, and then we will get back to you on those questions. Okay, so that almost takes us to the end of our session today. I'm going to launch a quick poll that you will get on your screen. So, I would request all of you to take a quick look at the questions and answer them, and then we will conclude the workshop. I'll also give you the one PDU claim code that each of you can claim towards the end. Yeah, so it would be great if you could just respond to the poll. On the chat box. So that's your claim code, and you should be able to take a look at that code and then claim the one PDU after the workshop is, the webinar is over. Okay, so we are almost at the top of the hour. I'm very thankful to all of you. You made it a point to attend this webinar in the middle of your busy schedule. So thank you so much, and hope to catch you all on the next webinar series from ProThoughts, and talk to you soon then. So thanks once again, and have a great rest of the evening wherever you are. And Kedar is signing off. See you soon next time. Thank you very much.